Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're all staying safe out there. So I just finished my bachelor's in psychology with the Open University. It's been 3 years. It's been quite a journey, to say the least. If you're new to this channel, I had actually made a video before the start of my level 3 study, aka the final year, but I thought it was a bit too cringy, so I deleted it. And instead I decided to make a full-on review of the Open University. Welcome to the OU review. Only some people will get that joke. Anyway, let's start with a quick introduction to the Open University and how it works. The OU is a module-based distance learning institution, which means that rather than individual classes, you'll study all the relevant things necessary for your degree, packed into 30 or 60 credit modules, and most, if not all, your study will be done online. Each level will require you to complete 120 credits. For me and anyone taking a degree in psychology, it means that you have to take 2 60 credit modules, and you can take between 3, like I did, or 16 years to complete your whole degree. I don't know anyone who takes that long, but there must be someone, because there must be a maximum for a reason. So, without further ado, what did I think about studying at the Open University? Well, in general, I really did enjoy my study with the OU. It was a great experience overall, and honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. I could study at my own pace, with exception for meeting the deadlines. I could study wherever I wanted, whether it was cafes, libraries, at home, at a park, on the plane, in a train, any way you can think of, basically. All I needed was my laptop, my Kindle, and a notebook, because I'm a physical notes kind of gal. A majority of the module materials were engaging and interested me to no end. I enjoyed reading almost all my textbooks, and I enjoyed almost all the audio and video materials that came alongside them. I loved that a majority of my assessments were essay-based, which means I only had to submit essays and essays and essays and essays and essays, with one exception, and I'll tell you what it is later. I do have a few bones to pick, and we'll get into that later. For now, let's go through my OU experience level by level. I had done my level 1 study as a part-time student, which means that I went through one module for 9 months rather than 2 or 3, or basically I only did 60 credits for 9 months, which is not that much, actually. But since I started my degree in January, I managed to complete my level 1 study within a year. So you can have early in the year start and late in the year start, and that's what I did for my level 1 study. Part-time study is really good for those who currently have jobs and want to do a degree to help build their skills or something, which is sort of what I did, but also not at the same time. The workload of both modules part-time meant that juggling workload from school and work and energy for both was actually a lot easier. Although I do have to say that I ended up quitting my job because I couldn't handle it. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, let's talk about the 2 modules that I sat through. DD102, introducing the social sciences. I started off with DD102 because it was the only module that was available in January, but I'm not sure if that's actually the case anymore. This module was a nice little dip into the world of the social sciences, and I learned a bit about everything. I learned psychology and criminology and political science and international studies and economics and geography, and it was interesting. I still remember the video materials from then because it was shot in Guildford, where I've been to a few times. DD102 helped me solidify my decision to pursue psychology. I do think that DD102 is a good starter module if you're interested in the social sciences, and or if you want to pursue something in the social sciences but you're not exactly sure which major to pick. To be honest, 3 years later, I don't remember much of the module content, but I did have an amazing tutor whose guidance has stuck with me until the very end. I'm super grateful that I had her as a tutor, and if you're watching this, I wish you all the best in your retirement. Also, now you know how I look like. Anyway, moving on to my next module, DE100, Investigating Psychology 1. DE100 is the compulsory module if you're taking a degree in psychology. So I'm not surprised that this module went deeper into the world of psychology compared to DD102. Since this module only had October starts, I completed this module right after I did DD102, and I did this part-time as well. It was during the time of DD100 that I was working at a publication, which was so stressful that I'm glad I didn't have to worry about juggling two modules at the same time. This module teaches you the true nature of psychology. It teaches you all the basic theories like personality and how we learn and stuff like that, and gives you a brief overview on how research is done in psychology. And you also learn all the statistics stuff, but no one really likes statistics, so and the majority of the module material is centered around two textbooks, Investigating Psychology and Investigating Methods. I really enjoyed the introductory weeks called Investigating Intelligence, which basically taught me the crazy history behind intelligence research and that most intelligence tests are BS. Now, level 2 was where things started getting a little bit rocky for me. I went through my level 2 and 3 studies as a full-time student, which meant that I juggled two 60-credit modules at one time. That also meant that I had to juggle back-to-back deadlines, and I had two different teachers with different wants and needs and different availabilities. If there was one thing that I didn't enjoy about my level 2 studies overall, it was that all the modules only had October starts. So it wasn't like I had the choice to split my level 2 studies into two like I did with level 1. But that did mean that there was a lot more interesting modules that I could choose from, such as E219, Psychology of Childhood and Youth. Oh boy, was this an interesting module! If you're the kind of person who finds it really difficult to keep things to themselves, I would suggest that you do not take this module, especially not if you have friends and family with younglings. Trust me, what you learn in this module will make you want to scream at them all the time, but with science. E219 teaches you all about the psychological developments of us humans from infancy to adolescence. I learned about the Boba doll experiment, which tested whether aggression was something that was learned in children or if it's something that's just natural to us humans. It's not. I also learned the importance of identity, and that actually our identities are built from the moment that we can comprehend the world around us. I learned about, I think her name was Mary Ainsley. I learned about the strange situation, which taught me about the different kinds of attachment styles, which can also affect you in adulthood. I basically learned that if you mess up a child's childhood, you are messing up their whole life. Anyway, moving on to DE200, Investigating Psychology 2. So alongside E219, I also studied DE200, the compulsory module for my degree in level 2. It was here where I learned that psychology has many branches. I learned about social psychology, cognitive psychology, biological psychology, and developmental psychology, and how all of these branches interlink with each other. That wasn't confusing enough. Here lies that one exception that I was talking about earlier, and if you're taking a bachelor's in psychology or if you're planning on starting it, you need to be aware that it is DE200 where you'll have to sit for the one and only exam that you have to take throughout your entire bachelor study. This is because it is a requirement of the British Psychological Society to accredit a degree. Okay, fine, but I'm not sure about you. I'm really bad at exams. And no matter how much I tried, and I really did try, I did not do very well, but I didn't fail, which is all that matters. And now let's talk about one of those bones that I mentioned. While I really loved the module materials, it was during DE200 where I had one of two bad experiences with a tutor who I do have to say is the main reason why I gained so much anxiety towards a particular method of research. I'm not going to mention names, but this tutor was basically non-existent throughout my study, and I had near zero support from them. Any response I did manage to squeeze out of them was vague at best, useless at worst, and I felt like I was on my own. After having such a great level 1 experience with such amazing tutors, one of which I had again in E313, I was actually baffled that this has happened to me. Don't get me started on the assignment feedback they gave. In DE300, I also had to make this weird e-poster thing, which is basically a PowerPoint slide / infographic about something psychology related. It depends on the topic, and is apparently a thing that psychologists have to do in real life. I just found it extremely weird. I also had my first taste of conducting research, albeit partially. Basically, the research question and the methodology was provided to me, along with the materials I needed for analysis. So basically, all I had to do was conduct the analysis and do the write-up. And it was this experience, coupled with the lack of support from my tutor, that gave me the major anxiety. Remember how I said that I felt alone? Not very good when you're trying to conduct research for the very first time, running around like a headless chicken. And this experience was honestly made worse by the fact that I actually didn't discover this anxiety until the next year. So let's talk about level 3. So, just like level 2, I did my level 3 studies as a full-time student, and overall I had mixed experience, but oh boy, were these last few months extremely frustrating. There were endless website maintenance with the worst possible timings, and don't get me started on the tutorial timings that the administration both refused to change and refused to provide extra timings. This had never happened throughout my level 1 and 2 study, where if I found that I couldn't attend an online tutorial, and tutorials are really helpful, especially for your assignments, I could just send in an email to student support and be like, I really like to attend a tutorial, please. And they provided additional timings, but for some reason that just didn't happen in level 3. Now this is really frustrating because there are a lot of students who are doing open university studies and are not living in the UK or in Europe. I am one of them, and even though I am currently 4 hours ahead of British time, I still had to stay up until 1 in the morning just to be able to attend a tutorial. Those were not fun times, and if you're one of my patrons, you've seen that in the vlogs. So level 3 counts a lot more towards your degree result compared to level 2. And guess what happened about halfway through? A global pandemic. Despite being an online institution, it had caused all the final assignments to be cancelled. They did it throughout the board, no matter which module or degree or whatever you were learning. A lot of the final assessments were cancelled, exams were cancelled. So now I have absolutely no idea how my module results are going to be calculated, much less the results of my degree. T-minus 29 days as of recording until I find out what my results are. But until then, let's talk about the modules. E313, exploring psychological aspects of athletic development. I am glad that I decided to talk about this module first because I simply loved it. I am really into sports and I'm really into psychology, so what better module to take than something that teaches me about sports psychology? And that is what E313 is. It is a sports psychology module, and it taught me so many interesting aspects of the world of sports psychology, about athlete motivation and athlete depression, and I really enjoyed the module materials. And I had an amazing tutor to boot. My time on E313 was made a lot better thanks to the WhatsApp group that I was in. Shout out to the naughty group if you're watching. It was a heck of a great time. So despite the terrible tutorial timings, I felt less guilty about missing these because all of them were recorded, so I could just hop in and not rely on tutorial slides. Unlike DE300, I know this was a short one, but we need to talk about it. DE300, Investigating Psychology 3. This is the final compulsory module if you're planning to study psychology with the Open University, and I did not enjoy this one. Now don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed having the opportunity to conduct my own research. DE300 is where you'll face your thesis, but since I'm a psych student, I got to have a bit more fun with my thesis and I enjoyed it. But sadly, there were a lot more bads than goods about the module. Firstly, there was this massive bug in the OU systems that gave a lot of students their third methodology choice, and to my luck, I was one of them, and to my luck, that was when I discovered that I had major anxiety about the text-based methodology. I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky that I had such an understanding tutor at first who did everything in his power to help me switch over to my first choice, which was survey method. And so that's where I ended up. In hindsight, I should have just sucked it up and gone through with the text-based method that I was given, but at the time my anxiety was really bad. I was actually in like panic. But I say this in hindsight because I didn't expect that I'd be unlucky and get another bad tutor, but I did, and we'll talk about that in a second. So secondly, the tutorials. It turns out that in DE300, the face-to-face tutorials are of a lot better quality compared to the online tutorials, which were really all. And worst of all, the online tutorials weren't even recorded. So if I accidentally missed out on a tutorial, which I did, I only had tutorial slides to work with. And honestly, they only tell like a third of the story. And that, coupled with the fact that I didn't have a good tutor, DE300 wasn't a fun time for me. Thirdly, there was so much emphasis on the research project that I didn't feel like I even really studied psychology, except for in relation to the topic that I chose for my research. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of material available, but I was personally so engrossed in what topic I should be researching and all that other stuff, and like how to do everything, and like I didn't really have much time to read up about anything else. And I doubt anyone else could have done it either. And lastly, I had a bad tutor. Again, they responded promptly enough, but oh my lord, were their responses vague. And that's not very good if you're doing full-blown research for the first time. And because of this, I ended up going through a majority of my project on my own. Whenever I felt stuck and really needed guidance, they weren't available, and the OU materials provided could only teach you so much. There was one crucial moment in the project where I really needed guidance. There was no information provided in the OU materials, and as much as you'd like, as much as they tell you that you need to be following everything to the T, this was not one of those points. And I reached out for help and they weren't there. And that costed me my project. I ended up getting the worst marks of my study. There is another reason why I want to talk about DE300 at the end, though. I'm currently planning on making a series of videos to help guide future DE300 students with their projects and to try and make sure that no one makes the same mistakes that I did. So if you're sitting for DE300 at the end of the year, if you're interested, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll answer them in that video series. I will be making a video of each of the methodologies: survey, experiment, and text-based. And for the latter two, because I didn't really sit for them, I have gotten some helpful tips from some teachers. Anyway, that's the end of my OU review. While my study didn't really end on a high, I'm still extremely grateful that I went through it anyway. And while my experience wasn't perfect, I'm still grateful for the existence of this institution. I've been wanting to pursue psychology since I was 15, and the OU had made it possible for me. Any other university that I went to didn't accept my A-levels results. I didn't do very well. And because of that, they wanted me to pay extra money for a foundation year, which I found to be pretty useless, and I didn't want to do it because it's a waste of time. So if you're thinking about joining the Open University, honestly, go for it. It was a really great experience overall, and you know what? Despite everything, I can call myself a Bachelor of Science now. If you like this video, please give the like button a big clickety-click. I'd really appreciate it. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Again, I am coming up with an OU guide alongside some other stuff. If you have any questions about OU study, leave them in the comments below and I'll answer them in a future video. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you're having a good day and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye!